Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Popco, the Writers, or in this case, The Writer. Yeah, not sure where Jim is. Hopefully, he'll be popping up soon. If not, I'll be talking a lot for the next hour. But, and we'll have to see how this goes. Might turn it into a Ask Me Anything if Jim doesn't show up in a couple minutes, but we shall see. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you get a chance. I would appreciate that. And let's dive right into our first topic. Is something I've been hearing a lot about is the idea of superhero fatigue. The idea that, oh, people are just getting tired of all these superhero movies. They don't want to do them anymore. Oh, when is too many? And I've never really felt that was a legitimate question because I don't see superhero movies as a thing. I see movies based off of comic books. Hey, Amy, good to see you. I see movies based off of comic books. And it turns out I'm not the only one because Kevin Feige has a similar approach to this. And this is a quote from Kevin Feige, which I thought was really good. Now, this was a conversation he had with the Movie Business Podcast. And they asked him about superhero fatigue. And he said, quote, I've been at Marvel for 22 years now, over 22 years, and most of us here at Marvel Studios have been around a decade or longer. And from probably my second year at Marvel, people were asking, well, how long is this going to last? Is this fad of comic book movies going to end? And I didn't really understand the question because to me, it was akin to saying after Gone with the Wind, well, how many more movies can be made off of novels? Do you think the audience will sour on movies being adapted from books? And for me, that's the exact right question, or answer, because we look at the comic book movies that have come out, and yeah, you can look at Marvel and DC movies, and they are based on superheroes, but even within that, they're all different genres a lot of times. You look at a lot of the Ant-Man movies have been heist movies. The first Captain America movie was a war movie, and the second one was like a 70s spy thriller. Iron Man is more sci-fi. And just down, I mean, when you look at the different things, they're very different. She-Hulk was comedy. Moon Knight was more of an Indiana Jones type movie or show. Hawkeye was a Christmas special in a way. The Guardians of the Galaxy was a space comedy. They're very different. And the fact that they can make these things merge together is fantastic. But you go outside of that and you think about other things that have been comic books. 30 Days of Night. 30 Days of Night was an amazing vampire movie. But nobody said, well, is this a trend that's not going to last? Well, no, they said about vampires. And yeah, vampires got old for a while. Zombies. Well, no, nobody seems to be getting tired of zombies yet, but I am. Well, I like to see that come back around to another type of monster movie. We can get back to aliens. That would be fun. We could get werewolves. Haven't had a good werewolf movie in a while that I can think of. We don't need to keep going with the zombies. We can put the zombies aside. I'd be okay with that. But yeah, so yeah, I look at it that way too. The whole thing that how long are we going to have these superhero? Oh, I'm tired of these superhero movies. To me, it's the same thing as saying I'm tired of murder mysteries. And I'm not. I never am. I was just talking to Lisa earlier, and I said, I'm at a point in my life where if you put out the latest, a new Kenneth Branagh, Agatha Christie movie, or a new Daniel Craig, Benoit Blanc movie at the same weekend as you put out the newest Marvel movie, I'm probably going to go see the murder mystery first because I lean that direction. And I would love to see a superhero murder mystery. I'd love to write a superhero murder mystery. I need to do that. I need to let me write that down. Superhero murder mystery. I think that would be fun. Yeah. See, I kind of equate myself as a mystery writer. You know, at the heart of everything I've ever written, there's a mystery. Whether it was a freeze and the mystery was, um, how did that happen? How did they all end up frozen? Even back to Sinbad, there was the mystery of what Sinbad had done to end up like that, and the quest for the visor to find out who really killed uh, the Sultan. So, yeah, I'm always going to put a mystery at the heart of what I write because I think that's what engages readers. I mean, you can have a good punch 'em up. I think one of the best examples of that is the death of Superman. The 4 issues that led into the death of Superman was just a big fight scene. I mean, if you think about it, it's considered, you know, one of the quintessential comics out there, but it was just a big fight scene, you know? But when it comes to my favorite comics, I from DC, Batman Hush is always number one for me. Big murder mystery, a big mystery. Green Arrow Quiver, another mystery of how Ollie came back to life and stuff like that. And Adam Strange Planet Heist, which is a mystery about where the hell the planet will go. Somebody stole a planet. So mysteries and heist movies are always been my big thing. And I'd love to see them done more. And I mean, I'm a big fan of the Ant-Man movies, so I could see that tie-in. But a good mystery, and that might also be what got me with the Batman, because it was a noir detective story, which I think are great for Batman. Batman should be written that way, you know. If for some reason Marvel or DC called me up and offered me to write a Batman story, it would be a mystery. If James Gunn called me up and asked me to write the next Batman movie, it would be a mystery because I think that's where the character excels. The playing on him being the world trade's detective, or Sherlock Holmes, or Hercule Poirot, or you know, Miss Marple is kind of an interesting one because there's certain criteria for a detective that I think in a good murder mystery, and Miss Marple's kind of on the outside of that. You know, to me, there's always the archetypes of characters. There is the force of nature, your Sam Spade, that type, your Philip Marlowe, the guy who is uh, rebels against authority, is more likely to punch than ask questions, um, tends to get beaten up a lot. You know, he's an interesting character. That's an interesting character. Jack Reacher is kind of a force of nature character too, though he doesn't get beat up as much, but he does a lot of beating. Then you've got the enigmatic detective with a flaw, and that is your Hercule Poirot, your Sherlock Holmes, where they're super intelligent, but to make them relatable, they have to have a flaw, whether it's the drug addiction for Holmes, the OCD for Poirot, the you look at other characters like Monk fits in that category. Also, Zero, I don't remember his first name, from Zero Effect. That was another great one, you know. And then there's also he's kind of a combination, but Nero Wolf, which is the partners where one's the brain and one's the brawn. So in a sense, you have the enigmatic with the force of nature character. Jimmy Doyle is, but the difference is that in that combination, you need the leg man to be likable, and it's the same format that I used for my Lucius Fogg novels. Um, you know, the brilliant guy, the detective, is actually kind of aloof or just standoffish, and you really don't aren't supposed to connect with them. You're supposed to connect with the guy who's telling the story, the leg man. So it's kind of like Holmes and Watson, except Watson is more of a follow along, and Holmes is out there doing it. With Nero Wolfe, Nero is sitting in his apartment all the or his brownstone all the time, and Archie Goodwin is out solving the cases, and that's another interesting one. And besides, my Lucius Fogg books, Jake and the Fat Man was another one like that. And but then you get to the Miss Marple, and she's kind of an enigma in the sense that she's the unassuming detective. Almost a you almost throw Columbo in that category, even though he was a detective and she isn't. But the one who just kind of happens their way into the mystery and solves it. And I do like those kind of detectives, but you start wondering how many stories you can tell with that kind of detective and it makes sense. Um, Look at Murder, She Wrote. Perfect example of a Miss Marple type detective. And she, after a while, I think the police would be investigating her for the fact that she's around so many murders. She's not a detective. She lives in this tiny town of Cabot Cove, which has to be like the murder capital of the world at this point, with the number of murders that she solved there. I mean, is that all they teach there? Here, Johnny, this is how you read, this is how you do math, and this is how you kill somebody. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. Cabot Cove, man. But I'm so far off topic here. Um, yeah, so a murder mystery superhero thing would be awesome. But let's go back to the original thing, which is nobody is coming out saying, well, how many more murder mysteries are they going to want to see? Netflix is gambling. You're going to want to see at least one more Benoit Blanc movie. Uh, they're moving forward on another Agatha Christie with Kenneth Branagh. See how they run. I watched See How They Run last night, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I didn't know I was going to. I don't remember hearing much about it either way. It came out and then it was in theaters and it was out of theaters. And I got it confused with Amsterdam. They had a similar look, I think. And I started watching Amsterdam for got a few minutes into it. And I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for this one yet. So I bailed out of it. But I did watch See How They Run last night. And that I found very interesting. If you haven't seen it, without spoiling anything, it is a true Agatha Christie homage in the sense that it's about Agatha Christie. It is a murder mystery, a murder that takes place backstage of the Mousetrap on its 100th anniversary episode. Mousetrap, of course, is the longest running play in history. It's still going on in the West End of London. And this was the 100th episode or 100th performance, and somebody gets murdered. And it's all about this group of people that were coming in to make a movie version of Mousetrap, and the contract that was, and then you have this detective who, has his problems. He's an alcoholic. His wife has left him, and then you have this younger constable, a female constable, who is put with him, who talks too much, is too excited, jumps to conclusions, and they make an interesting pairing. But they work together. And then even at one point, you have somebody pop in as Agatha Christie herself, who would have been alive at the time. And I love who they got to play Agatha Christie. It's Shirley Henderson, who, and I haven't verified this, but I'm pretty sure she's the same lady who played Moaning Myrtle in the Harry Potter movies who was way older than you think she is. And I don't mean she's old. I mean that Moni Myrtle came across like she was in her teens, and I think she was in her 30s when she played Moni Myrtle. She was also in Doctor Who in the ELO episode where she gets turned into a piece of cement, like a stone brick or a cement tile. So it's pretty. She's always interesting when she pops up, and she's playing Agatha Christie, and it's great. And it's a really good cast, and it's a clever movie. I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. Um, I don't know if it's a detective I would want to see more of. Sam Rockwell plays the main detective, and he didn't come across that strongly. He didn't come across that strongly, but he wasn't bad. I mean, I enjoyed it, but like I said, I don't know if I would put him in the rewatchable detective category like you would uh, Sherlock Holmes or now Benoit Blanc or Hercule Poirot. So I told you guys I watched Glass Onion and really loved it. I cannot wait, and I love the fact that Ryan Johnson is already moving forward on the third Knives Out movie, and he said it's because he's having so much fun doing them that that's the stories are popping in his head. He's ready to move forward with them, and he's just rolling. So he's keeping going on it. He doesn't want to stop and do something else. And I mean, that's what a lot of directors and actors do, or directors do, is it's like, okay, we're going to do this movie, and then I'll go over here and do something else. And I'll come back to the franchise and do something else. And then I'll go do this over here, which makes a lot of sense. But if you're really into it and you've got the guarantee stuff like he has, I don't see why not. I mean, if you've got the stories, I'd go for it. And he does write these, and I mean, usually with a co-author, but or co-writer. But I'd get a third one out there and get people anticipating a fourth. And do them as long as Daniel Craig wants to come back, because that's the only member of the cast you have to have. Everybody else is replaceable. I mean, okay, they've now established that Hugh Grant is his husband or partner. I don't know if they were married, but so if you're going to bring Ben's husband into it, then you do need to bring in Hugh Grant. But other than that, you can get away with just about casting anybody. And if you think about it, they just keep hiring Marvel actors to be the bad guys. So maybe it's time for Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, Jeremy Renner when he gets healed. I mean, Scarlett Johansson. Ooh, that would be a nice twist. We haven't had a female murderer in a while. That would be cool. But you notice that it's Chris Evans, and then yeah. All right, I think I've beaten the crap out of that subject, and still no Jim. But we're going to keep going. As long as I got something to talk about, I'll keep going, and hopefully Jim will pop up. So my thing saying that we're going to talk about the Star Wars trilogy, the sequel trilogy. I apologize that we haven't gotten to that, but Jim hasn't shown up yet, and I don't know what's going on. And I mean, it's probably a really good reason. So we'll just keep going. Wanted to talk about the announcement, not the announcement, but a social media post from Jason Momoa. And Jason showed a video of him coming out of a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and supposedly he also met with David Zaslav, and he comes out happy as all hell, smiling and talking about how he hasn't been this happy since he found out he was going to be Aquaman. And coming out of Warner Brothers' lot, he just thinks it's great. But it's kind of a mixed message when it comes to what he's actually celebrating. Because it sounds, in one sense, he says stuff like, I'm always going to be Aquaman. But there's an evolution to that. And 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 there's an evolution to And, we still have the Aquaman movie coming up. So I don't think he would come out and say, well, this will be my last time as Aquaman. But he also talked about how he could also play other characters and how other actors have done that. So, and we know there's a huge rumor of him playing Lobo and that he wants to play Lobo. So, how do you interpret all of that? How do you take that in? Is he going to be Lobo? Is he going to be Aquaman? Is he going to be both? What's happening? Well, my first thought is Lobo's a pretty obscure character. How do you justify making a Lobo movie? And I think how you do it is you don't make a Lobo movie. What you make is a Superman movie with Lobo in it. There is an animated film that came out, and it started the new wave of DC animation. And it's Superman Man of Tomorrow, I think it's called. And it features Superman and Lobo and Martian Manhunter. And I'm trying to remember who the bad guy was. Trying to remember who the bad guy was. Because at first he comes across like it's Lobo. But it's not. But he's part of it. And you get the big fight scene between Lobo and Superman. You get it's Superman in the early days, but he's already met Lois and stuff. It's almost exactly how James Gunn described how he wanted the Superman movie to be, in that he wants a younger Superman, but he doesn't want it to be an origin story and a different take on it. Let me see, Man of Tomorrow. Let me see if that finds it. Superman, Man of Tomorrow. Yeah, Darren Criss was Superman. Zachary Quinto plays Lex Luthor. Ike Amati plays Martian Manhunter. Let's see. Alexandria Daddario is the voice of Lois Lane. There it is. The bad guy was Parasite and was played by Brett Dalton from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then Ryan Hurst voiced Lobo. And it was a real good movie. I've got it behind me in my animated stuff. But it was good because it introduced a new Superman. It created this new world. Yeah, Jay's seen it. Man of Tomorrow was really good and loved the animation style. Yeah, it's where they introduced the animation style with a heavier outside line or control line to give more depth to the characters and stuff. And they've carried that through in most of these movies. And every time the characters pop up, they use the same actors. Martian Manhunter pops up, they use the same guy. So from that point of view, it's, it would be a good place for them to start with a new DC universe, because you introduce Superman, you introduce Martian Manhunter, you introduce Parasite, all of the Superman's supporting cast, but you introduce Lobo. So it would make a lot of sense to do it that way. And if you brought Jason Momoa in to play Lobo, then you introduce the character there, and you could spin him off into his own movie or his own TV series. So I think Jason Momoa is good enough to, in a lot of ways, you could turn Lobo into DC's Deadpool. You could go the R-rated, you could do the humor and the action and stuff. So I think there's a lot of potential there, but you get people to like the character by first putting him against Superman and showing the power level he is, and then putting him out on his own. Then having him become helping Superman at one point. So, and you've got the other thing I really liked about that movie is you have the last son of three different planets. You have Clark Kent as the last son of Krypton, but you also have John Jones, the last Martian, and you have Lobo, the last Caesaran. Now, the difference is, of course, that Lobo killed all the other Caesarans. So there is that, but he is the last. So he does fit that little trifecta group. So I think that would be interesting. On the other hand, on Aquaman, I don't think they would come out and say it's going to be his last Aquaman movie until after the movie, if that was the case. Because why would you? You want people to go in thinking this is a franchise. We do all of these movies nowadays with the idea they're going to be a franchise. It's the odd thing about superhero movies and comic, these types of characters, because they come from these ongoing worlds. If somebody came out and did, trying to think of a one-shot graphic novel that was real popular. Jade, one-shot graphic novel. Well, if it was a graphic novel that came out and it was only one, and there was never an intent to do a sequel or a second one, then nobody would expect it. But Superman comes out every month. These characters show up every month. Iron Man comes out, well, every time they kill Tony Stark, but then they bring him back and he comes out every month. So people expect there to be these franchises. They expect them to be ongoing. And most of the time, these guys are hired for multiple picture deals and stuff. So I think fans get turned off when they find out it's not ongoing. Now, see, it's still Superman. All-Star Superman is another. James Gunn also showed a picture of him reading that. So I may be one of the few people that wasn't thrilled with All-Star Superman. But then I'm not a big Grant Morrison fan. But don't hate his stuff. Just some of it just doesn't click for me. But yeah, so I think that's the thing to think about is they're not going to tell us he's not going to be Aquaman anymore because they want people to go see the movie. And even when he says, I'll always be Aquaman, but there'll be some evolution to that. So maybe he's not, he isn't Aquaman anymore after that. Maybe they're going to do the world change thing and somebody else becomes Aquaman, or we get a different multiverse. Maybe that's how they're going to pitch it. We're suddenly going to be in a different multiverse. But, it was a very interesting post by Momoa. And unlike any other time something has been coming out, James Gunn has been quiet about it. He hasn't come out and said, "Oh, I want, this is wrong," or no, he's not going to be multiple characters. He hasn't debunked anything. So I find that fascinating. Now we're supposed to get info from James Gunn before the end of the year about what they're doing. Well, not the end of the year, the end of the month. It's January 22nd. 8 days? 9 days? 30 days has September, April, June, and November, all that. 31 days, yeah. So I think we're gonna, I think it's gonna cut close, but we're probably not gonna get a flood of information, but we'll get at least an idea of what they're doing first. I don't think we'll get casting, but I think we'll get a little bit of an idea. Like, okay, we're going to do this kind of movie, that kind of movie. We're going to do a Superman movie, and then we're going to do this. And I got to believe that David Zaslav has dictated Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, because he has said those are the pillars of the DC universe. And it would make way more sense for him to get those three movies back out, established with whoever's going to play those characters, and get them rolling as soon as possible, because their 10-year plan has to start at some point. And by the end of this year, there really isn't any more DC movies in the pipeline. We get Blue Beetle, Aquaman, Flash, and Shazam this year. And that's everything that's in production that I know of. I mean, another Batman movie, another Joker movie. Can they get both of those out in 2024? And then in 2025, they start fresh with everything new? I would be surprised if we get a third Joker movie. I'm surprised we got a second, actually. But the Batman stuff should continue on, because I think Matt Reeves has got a lot of ideas, and it's an interesting take on the character. And it's obviously making money, but then so did Joker. So, but I think, they've got to get things rolling. And I think there needs to be those three. There needs to be a Superman, a Batman, and a Wonder Woman movie in the works, because that's, in David Zaslav's opinion, that's the basis for the characters. Okay, I just heard from Jim. Hopefully he'll be on in a second. Jay says, I think folks are going to be disappointed with what the announcement will be. I don't think it's going to be a flood of info, just I should just put that on the screen. A few titles, maybe some graphics or logos. Yeah, I think it's going to be he's probably going to follow in Kevin Feige's footprints and come out and say, we're doing this movie, and this movie, and these are the rough dates for them. And we're, but I think we'll get a better idea of if it's a clean reboot. See, that's the thing, though, is if they're going to do a clean reboot, I don't think they'll come out and say it, because they don't want, like I said, to affect the sales of the movies coming out. But I think if they don't do a clean reboot, there's going to be some backlash. I know someone who is furious with DC and Warner Brothers because of the Henry Cavill thing. And it's not because they, are a Snyder fan. They're not a Snyderverse person. Their thinking is that Henry was told he was coming back, and now they're getting rid of him, and it's because they want a younger Superman, and that's ageism, and it's not fair, and they're mistreating him. And to a certain point, I agree with that. But let's bring Jim in. He's here now. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Dan.
So I'm just talking about, I'm just rambling at this point, but we were talking about.
Oh, you mean just like normal?
Yeah, but usually you interject. If they want to hear me just ramble for an hour, they could watch the Dan Wickline show.
I've been rewatching Loki, and I fell asleep on the couch. And it's funny because I don't remember that show being that boring. No, it's
I don't
not.
think it was.
Just, I don't know. I was just tired, but sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
I was
just going over
thing that happened, right?
Yeah, I was just going over the Jason Momoa tweet or Instagram post about him being happy after meeting with Gunn and Safran, and how he'll always be Aquaman, but there's always a chance for him to play more than one character because other actors have done it. And it was a very confusing quote, and we kind of carried all the way through Superman and how I think that maybe he will be Lobo, and that they're going to do basically the Man of Tomorrow animated movie, which was Superman Martian Manhunter and Lobo versus Parasite.
What other actors have done what he is claiming that they've done?
Ryan Reynolds?
Okay, but no.
Not in the same universe, yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's not even that. He's talking about playing a headlining character and then possibly playing another headlining character for the same.
Chris Evans?
I still don't see that, because generally it would be within the same universe, or I
Unless
don't.
they're doing a full reboot.
Yeah, I don't really agree with him what he's saying. I mean, he is so associated with Aquaman. I don't know how much Chris Evans was really associated with Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of him as, but I had only seen him in a handful of things, and most of them were comic book movies.
Okay.
Losers and Scott Pilgrim and Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And then he pops up as Captain America. I know he'd done other things.
I mean, it is he claiming that he would continue to play Aquaman and play something else? I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
That's the thing. That's where it's confusing.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be him. I think they're going to close the door on the Snyder first completely at the end of this year.
Yeah.
And start fresh.
Yeah.
Now, they might reuse some of the actors, but maybe not in the same roles.
Okay.
Kind of like Chris Evans.
Yeah, right. They closed the door on that Fantastic Four, and that was that. Okay, yeah. Sure.
But I look at, I'm never going to get his name right. Yaha Abdul Mateen II. He plays Black Manta in the Aquaman movies.
Okay.
He's going to be a big part of the second one. He was a big part of the first one. And they're moving fast into production on Wonder Man. And he's going to play Simon Williams.
Okay, right.
So if he's moving into that, then the odds of him coming back for another Aquaman movie is possible. Yeah. But it seems like he's moving on to the Marvel Universe now.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if they close the door. But James Gunn loves to reuse actors.
Yes.
He's even come out and said that he thinks that most of the Guardians will end up somehow into the DCU once they move forward.
Yeah.
My
guess also is that maybe, they did say, okay, Jason Momoa, you're done as Aquaman, but don't say that to anybody because we don't want another huge Henry Cavill backlash kind of a thing going on right now. We're getting enough bad press as it is, so he's making it sound like that's going to continue. I don't know. It sounded, whatever it is, it sounds very ill-advised. It's like, just shut your mouth and whatever.
Yeah, I think we'll find out. Like I said, we got 9 days till the end of the month, and Gunn had promised to give us some information on their plan by the end of the month.
Which they don't really have to.
No, but Gunn...
They're under no obligation to do that.
No, they don't have an obligation, but he said he'll do it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why he would. I mean, it's like, just, unless that's the same sort of thing as Kevin Feige going up on stage at those events and having a big slide show thing. I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is that going to be like a big production kind of a thing, or is it literally just he's just going to say, we're going to make 10 movies. We're not going to tell you anything about them, but
I think as somebody else said earlier, Jay said earlier that he thinks it's just going to be a few titles and some graphics and stuff. But my point, and it's something I've been saying about DC for a while now, is right now they're letting rumors, speculation, and angry fans control the narrative.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say.
So they need to come out and say, this is what we're doing. This is done. We're moving this direction. Because anything that comes out, they're doing this, the Snyderverse is coming back. And you know, the fact that no one is going back to the Snyderverse.
Right.
You know, it's just not. Now they may hang on to some of the actors. I mean, we haven't heard clearly that it's going to be a complete reboot. So maybe some of the actors stick around. I don't know. But the fact that they're not going to go back to Zack Snyder.
Right.
You know,
The Flash movie should be the end of all of that, right?
Aquaman's after it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Aquaman's the last one. So, but again, the reason I'm curious about the Aquaman movie, and I think Blue Beetle, is because Peter Safran is one of the producers on both those movies.
What if the Flash movie is supposed to be so concerned with the multiverse or whatever you want to call it for DC? You would think that that would be the last. You know, it would come after the other ones. Huh.
And for a while, it was going to be.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then they moved everything around again. So I don't know. See, that's the problem. Is it doesn't seem like Warner Brothers really knows what they're doing
all along for that.
Yeah. Right. That's why I think James Gunn needs to come out and make an announcement and lay out a map.
I grant you that. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a mess, and I think they really have to kind of fix it.
Yeah, this order of the movies seems like a big, huge mess.
Oh, Andrew has a theory. Shall we share Andrew's theory?
You say that?
I love Andrew theories, actually. Okay. Andrew says, I have a theory. Because of the wording about what Gunn is doing with Superman, Henry Cavill will play Superman again with Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot in a single Kingdom Come feature. I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
And the reason would it be cool? Would it be fun to see? Sure. Yes. Yeah. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
The reason I don't think it's going to happen is because I'm not looking at it from a fan point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it from a business point of view. Mm-hmm. And right now, the company is being run by a businessman. Mm-hmm. David Zaslav is in there to get rid of debt and make money. And he has come out clearly and said the tent pole for the DCU is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything is going to flow through those characters. Mm-hmm. If we're going to get a Lobo movie, he's going to show up in a Superman movie and then spin off onto his own. But everything is going to run through those three characters, and that they're going to be those movies coming out regularly.
Yeah. Isn't it a shame that as much of a mess as they have and kind of chaos and maybe the movies weren't as good as they could be, but they actually had actors in those prominent roles who were worthy, but mm-hmm. yet now the whole thing is so tainted that they need to move on from them. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that Ben Affleck was necessarily the perfect Batman, but Henry Cavill. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I'll admit, he looked the part and maybe could act the part. And Gal Gadot is absolutely the next best Wonder Woman next to Linda Carter, But you know what I mean? Now it's all just tainted, it's too bad because now you have to start all over again and come up with actors that a very great majority of the public will like and accept in the roles.
I really liked Henry Cavill as Superman. I liked Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and I liked Ben Affleck as Batman. I think they all did remarkably well at what they were doing.
Yeah.
I don't think they had the best material to work with. Mm-hmm. I think Wonder Woman was a great movie. Wonder Woman 84 was horrible.
Right.
I wasn't a fan of Ezra Miller. I didn't like the way he played Flash.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray Fisher I didn't think he brought much to it. He
hasn't been talked about in a little while, has he?
Yeah.
I think that kind of all quieted down, didn't it?
Yeah. And I thought Jason Momoa was great, but I don't necessarily think he was Aquaman from the comics. he was Jason Momoa.
You're right, as Aquaman, right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah. I see what you mean.
Yeah. Though Andrew says Affleck's Batman was good for playing the older, jaded, grizzled Miller-esque Batman, which is true. But I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that same thing too. Yeah, that's how old is Ben Affleck compared to Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot?
Henry is 39 now. Ben is 50 or
Wow.
51. There's a good 10 years or more
Yeah,
between
yeah,
them. Gal Gadot is just a little younger than Cavill,
yeah. So that,
but
yeah,
they're comparable. Yeah.
you're right. They came in with a Batman that's already had been around for a while and grizzled, as you say, or whatever. And yeah, kind of again an odd choice.
Yeah.
And I always wondered about that too, because it's like it's Ben Affleck as Batman, not as just he's not just Batman. Like when you get somebody with a name like that and a career, you're bringing all that baggage, and especially for a guy who had played a prominent Marvel superhero previously.
Yeah. True.
And Gal Gadot was more or less. She wasn't terribly known.
No, I mean, the only thing I'd seen her in was a Fast and Furious movie.
Mm-hmm. And then Henry Cavill wasn't like a household name.
Yeah. Now Jay brings up a good point. He says, I thought the same thing about them skipping Hank Pym and going straight to Scott caused a few issues doing that. But I think they ended up handling it pretty well by bringing back
too.
Janet and making, because again,
I didn't necessarily moan the loss of Hank Pym, but I did of the loss of Janet as a vibrant, viable character. I'm glad that she's represented in those movies, although Hope is pretty much supposed to be, for the most part, Janet. But I totally understood why they went with Scott Lang as a character. He's much more three-dimensional. As much as I love Hank Pym, that's one of my most favorite Marvel characters. But I totally saw why they went with ex-convict Scott Lang.
Yeah, they did some very problematic stories with Hank Pym over the years.
Sure.
And that all would come up if they make Hank the star.
Yeah, they would say everybody would say, okay, how far down the road is that movie?
Yeah,
where he turns on Janet and knocks her around and everything.
So they kind of skip all that by making Yellow Jacket the villain, but Corey Stoll's character of Darren Cross as Yellow Jacket.
Yeah,
and by putting Scott in the lead, then Hank doesn't come across as a nice guy.
Yeah.
So you don't dig too much into his comic past and go,
right.
Oh, the wife beater, yeah, or the guy that turned on the Avengers. And
hey, back to DC just for a moment. What do we currently know about what Batman is in the Flash movie? It's definitely
both
Michael Keaton.
Affleck and Keaton appear in the Flash movie.
We know this for a fact.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is that Jason Momoa was asked which Batman's going to be in Aquaman, because originally they filmed it with Keaton. Then they did reshoots to put Affleck in because Aquaman was going to come out before The Flash, and then it got moved. So he says, I don't know. I've worked with a couple different Batmans. I don't know which one they're using.
Why would the Michael Keaton Batman be in the Aquaman movie if that's a different...
Because at one point, it was going to be Michael Keaton's Batman going forward.
He's like, what? How old is he?
I know. It didn't make any sense to me.
80 or something?
Yeah. Nostalgia-wise, yay, Michael Keaton. But
yeah, you might as well have Michael Douglas be Ant-Man.
Yeah. Exactly. Or, I don't know. It's all
you know what, Mike? I could see Michael Keaton, cameo or a guest spot in that one in the Flash movie or whatever, but not keep doing it. I can't imagine that he would want to do it.
yeah.
More than once. I can't believe he even wanted to do it once. Come back. He just seemed like not the guy to want to do that. Like, I did that, and that was that, and that was 1989, and this is now, and I'm not into that.
Well, I think Marvel and DC are becoming the retirement films, the 401k of actors. I mean, Keaton's like, oh, you want me to play what? The Vulture? I'm in. Do I have to know what they're talking about? Nope, just read the lines. Got it. I'm in. Harrison Ford's coming in to play in the Marvel universe.
That's the biggest scratcher of all to me.
Look at the actors that are coming in. Patti LuPone has joined the MCU.
Wait, I don't know if I heard this one. What is she doing?
She's going to be in Agatha, Coven of Chaos. So you know there's going to be more music.
But as a character we already know, maybe?
Don't know. They haven't said. But she's going to be in that. And it's like, well,
what the hell could she? Maybe she's just playing herself.
Maybe the Coven sings their spells.
Yeah. Because I can't think of what character she would play. Huh. Patti LuPone.
Yep.
Okay, well.
Patti LuPone. And, I mean, is it down the line? It's like, I heard a report today that they're saying that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to pop up in the Marvel Universe as a villain. And it's like, again, is it just actors 401k? Sylvester Stallone is in the
MCU. Stallone. I was going to say, of course Schwarzenegger is going to be in there. He's got to be in there with Stallone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got Ving Rhames is in the MCU. If you think about it,
is Stallone back in Volume 3 of Guardians?
Yes, he is. I do remember him saying he had been on set.
Okay. I mean, I'm still hoping that the original Guardians take over for the current Guardians. Yeah. I mean, they have them all there.
Yeah, I think that scene is all we're going to get of the original Guardians.
I mean, I want Martin X, the movie.
So does Michael Rosenbaum. He wants that, also a Smallville reunion. So,
okay.
And he wants to play a live-action version of The Flash.
Well, he can be an aged Barry Allen, I guess. I don't know.
No, Wally West. He's Wally West.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
He was the voice of Wally West in the Justice League animated series.
Wait a minute. What Flash is Ezra Miller?
He's Barry.
Is he? He's Barry Allen? Okay, wow. I would have thought he'd be like Bart Allen.
Yeah. Yes, Michelle Yeoh is in the MCU twice, as is Gemma Chan.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Yes. Right.
Jay says they want the Red Hulk, I guess, and Andrew just sighs.
I don't think that's going to happen with Harrison Ford. I don't think it's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen. I
don't think Harrison Ford would want that to happen. I bet he said, I'll do it, but I'm not playing any damn Hulk.
He's going to do it for the same reasons that all of these older actors do it. I wanted to be in something my grandkids would see.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say they want the money.
Oh, yeah, the money too. But it's like you're already Indiana Jones. You're Decker from Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. You're Han frickin' Solo. Mm-hmm. And you're Jack Ryan. Mm-hmm. What are your kids watching?
Wait, is he in DC movie? No, he's not in DC movies. Oh, well, he'll have to do that next.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be Batman. He'll be another Batman, right?
Let's see. Wild ass speculation. Michael Rosenbaum was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and Gunn likes to use actors he's worked with before. Maybe a multiverse Lex. Possible. Yeah. Actually, from what I understand, Gunn and Rosenbaum are really good friends. It's kind of like Yondu. Michael.
That guy.
Yeah, what's his name?
I can't think of his name. I'm glad you can't think of it either. Michael Bublé.
Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker.
Yeah, Michael Rooker.
I knew it was something like Bublé.
Yeah, And Michael Rooker's already showed up in DC
Hmm.
as one of the guys on the Suicide Squad that doesn't make it through the opening.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, which means he'll probably show up as something else later on.
Sure.
Yeah, because James Gunn, James Gunn isn't Kevin Feige in the sense that he won't use actors over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so yes, I think Jason Momoa could absolutely play Aquaman and Lobo.
Lobo. Yeah, that's just what we need. We need a Lobo movie. As long as Ambush Bug is in there somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, Ambush Bug would be fun.
I don't think we've ever had a live action Ambush Bug.
Somebody was saying they wanted to play him. Oh, the actor from Eternals, Kamal Nanjiani, says he wants to play Ambush
To
Bug.
play Erwin Schwab?
Yeah.
You know who could have played him if he was younger was Woody Allen.
Yeah, Woody Allen could.
But wait a minute. They're taking older actors, so maybe that's what we'll get.
But who could also play him is the guy from Big Bang Theory. Actually, any of them from Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say. But you mean Jim? What the main guy?
Jim Parsons, either Pilecki or the guy that went into space, was part of NASA and went into space.
Oh, definitely him. Oh, definitely him. Yeah.
I mean, do you know he is a concert level pianist?
Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's just perfect.
Okay, guys. I am sorry to say that we didn't get to the original planned topic, which we'll do next week, which is Jim trying to convince me that the Star Wars trilogies are good.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mandalorian.
That's not out till March.
I know, but we had a trailer. I thought we could get a lot of mileage out of that one if I hadn't fallen asleep.
Okay. We can talk about the Mandalorian trailer.
Okay.
But we got to get to that. You've been teasing it every time it comes out. You're like, that's going to be a whole show.
I'll make sure I fall asleep again.
So, yeah, I got on there. I'm like, no Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I vamped, and Jay's been around, and Andrew popped in, and so.
Yeah, it looks like you have more people in here than you normally do. They must have heard that I wasn't on for the first half.
Oh, come on. No self-deprecating humor.
Okay, sorry. I'm good at it, though.
That's my gig, you know?
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't want to step on your toes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got to wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning in. Jim, thanks for waking up and coming on.
It was worth waking up for.
And tune in this week on the Dan Wickline Show. I've got some guests that I forgot who they are. And
there's quality entertainment.
I've already ripped on The Last of Us, which I know I'm the only person hating on The Last of Us. But it's pretty much just The Mandalorian with zombies.
That's high concept.
Pedro Pascal has a young girl, or has a young charge with him that he has to protect, that somebody wants their blood. That's pretty much the same thing.
There are no new ideas in Hollywood.
No, pretty much. So, but yeah, tune into the Dan Wickline Show. We're also going to be doing some giveaways and stuff during the week. So check out The Experience. And we will be back next week where Jim, like I said, tries to convince me that Kylo Ren wasn't just a whiny little bitch.
That's exactly what he was.
Grandpa. So, all right, guys.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. I'll make sure I get plenty of sleep before I do that one.
Yeah. Andrew, The Last of Us is not great. Every single person I've talked to said, well, you'd like it if you played the game. And if I have to play a game to understand a TV show or enjoy a TV show, then it's not a good TV show.
Dan, don't diss your audience. The audience is always right.
All right, guys. We will see you next week. Take care, everybody.